What's up, everybody? It's your favorite reverse orders, favorite nerd, and today we are looking at X-Transbots Hoist. And the reason why I say reverse order is because I just shot the Trailbreaker review, and I'm not crazy about that toy. And then I started messing with this guy to shoot this next, and I like this guy a lot more. So we're going to look at him first and kind of get off on a good foot. Spoilers, when we get to Trailbreaker, I'm not as enthused. There's just a couple things that work better for this guy than work with him. Some of the things are still the same problems, etc., etc. We're going to talk about all of those things, at least I intend to, but for right now, we're going to start with accessories. So like every attempt at a masterpiece product, we have a few, remember that thing from that episode, accessories, which are namely these masks when they were, Hoist Goes to Hollywood. This one is for Trax, I believe, and this one is for Hoist. And then he has this thing which he built with Grapple, which was like the energy bit. All of these are on separate hinges, which is nice. The gold is painted on, and I believe that's it. And he just sort of has to hold it with kind of tension. To compare that real quick with the one that came with Grapple, I think the one that came with Grapple is much nicer, obviously. Just I think looking at aesthetics, you can tell the paint on the green, and then these are on have hinges as well, and then the silver bits painted at the top where these aren't painted, and then all the sculpted detail that's in this one that this one kind of lacks. So at least we have one, but it's nice of them to think to include the other. As for the masks, they both work fine, and we'll bring out another accessory while we're on the topic, which is the toy head. The silver is painted, the yellow is plastic, and then the green is plastic as far as I can tell. It slides on a mushroom cap. I won't be doing this, and we'll talk about that right before we get to the figure as to why. But it does fit on this head, and the paint is just the red with the black paint, and this one fits on Trax's head as well. You didn't believe me? We then have two accessories mainly for the vehicle, or totally for the vehicle, I should say. We'll talk about this one first. They're both nice. We have a hinge here, a hinge here, a hinge here, and then this extends, well, I guess not too much, but it extends a little bit. And then this is on a hinge, and then all of these are on, they operate on the, oh, they're like spring-loaded. I didn't even notice that before, so you could theoretically put something in here and close it up, which works, and that's cool. No paint, at least that I can see. It looks like all orange plastic, black plastic. I'm sure repro labels will come along and put warning stripes on there, but the hinges, at least on the armature, are all ratcheted, which is nice. It makes me wonder why they didn't put ratchets in a couple other places, not only on this figure, but on Trailbreaker, but we'll get there. That attaches down into there. It is a lot of force that it takes, but then you shouldn't have a problem. And then he also comes with this. These open and close, but this is just tension. And then each one of these is a separate ball joint. Which is maybe a little excessive, but I'm not going to complain about it. Let's count. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 25. Ball joints. And it's the same for that. So pretty cool. He comes with two adapters, as does Trailbreaker. And these plug in right here. And then this actually adapts to the ratchet tool, or it's a little tool that came with Masterpiece Ratchet if you want to use that, but nothing that this guy actually comes with. But while you have the hand tucked in, you can use this, which is also coated with that silver. And this can plug in. Still not happy with your hand options? Rest assured, we have 3 more. Most of us will only use one, but you get 2 of these, which are, you get them with Trailbreaker as well. They hinge here for transformation, and then they slide on the mushroom cap. And you also get the hammer, which does the same. Hand off. Hammer on. Hand off. Weapon on. Split the weapon. Open this up. Turn it around. Fold it back in. Let's talk about the figure. But before we do, I just want to give a special shout out to Manny. He's in the Facebook groups. Hopefully you already know who he is, but if you don't, he offers great prices. He offers great customer service. He knows I wasn't going to buy these, and he still wanted me to review them just so other people knew what was going on with them. You can find his email in the description if you want to contact him. I've been begging him for years to let me put his email in the description. He has always said no, and he finally gave in. That's how you contact him. Tell him Skullface sent you. He'll hook you up. Here we go. Let's talk about them. So the head is on a hinge swivel, surprisingly, because when you see how the alternate head fits on, you wouldn't necessarily assume that it is, but it is. So you get a little bit up out of it, and then you get a little bit down out of it, and then you get the swivel. And the whole assembly is attached to a flap that I do wish plugged in a little bit better, but that can get you an additional up and not really anything on the downward movement. The gray is actually a paint. It's a dark, like gunmetal silver paint, and it works really well. And the blue, I think, is just a glossy plastic for the eyes. But I think overall, it looks a little good, even though he's got a little bit of a skinny head. That's fine. I think ultimately it gets the job across fairly well. Let's continue. The shoulders are on an interesting assembly that I'm not sure that I've seen before, and they irritate me with Trailbreaker and they irritate me with him here, but I understand it a little better now. So this is going to seem a lot more competent than the Trailbreaker one did, so forgive me. There's actually a ratchet down on the inside of the chest, so you get one click there pretty much. Let's see if I can't get anything else out of it. No, you can get more if you adjust the shoulder. So you can get, I feel like I can get 3 clicks down. I don't know why you would use this, but you can get it. It's mainly for transformation. And then you can get some clicks up. You have a soft ratchet here on the outside that acts like a universal in a matter of speaking, where that gets you at 90 degrees straight out. No problems there. And then you get a swivel, and this is where some of the problems start. So right here, if you see, there's a clearance issue. It's between this shoulder and this backpack. Now, you can work it around it, but it's plastic grinding against plastic. It's definitely not intended, and it is extremely limiting for the range of motion for the hand. That's a bummer. That sucks. That should have been fixed. Out to the side, like I said, is fine, and then you have this bicep swivel here, a single jointed elbow. All of this is coated with that silver, and it looks good. My battery's getting ready to die. I'm going to have to stop for a second. Wrist swivel, fingers are on the typical KFC hands with ball joints all at the base knuckle, and then hinges for all the additional knuckles. They're all individually articulated. They're all flimsy as all hell, and if you've noticed, I've already lost the thumb, which I have to find in order to send it back to Manolo, or I have to buy it from him. I'll be right back.
Have you guys seen it? Look, the last thing I want to do is be strong-armed into buying an X-Transbots piece. Just keep your eyes open, all right? And don't ask me where the last place I left it is. If I knew where that was, I'd just go get it.
In short, KFC, rework your hands. They're antiquated, they're outdated, and you can do better. I think that. Now, for the rest of the figure, let's continue on. I do want to say one other thing, though. The shoulder engineering, which I'm sure most of you have seen in other reviews now, you compress it, you bend it down, and it snaps into place. It doesn't really snap into place. Like, it just kind of has a release into place more so, but it doesn't take much to get it out of position. So just know that. I think that was a little misleading, at least in how it seemed and how it operated. The test, I think the test shot worked a lot better in that regard. All right. So are we good on that? I think so. Let's talk about the body. The body. Waist swivel, absolutely no problems whatsoever. The backpack is relatively small, but it does have some size to it, and it doesn't affect it whatsoever, not even in the slightest. We do have some paint detailings that come through from truck mode into robot mode, so we'll talk about that when we get to truck mode, but it all does work. And then the wings here articulate, and so do this thing here on a hinge here, and then an additional hinge here, and that's all coated with the silver as well. Let's back out a little bit, and we'll look at the legs. So, unfortunately, there's it's interesting because there's a lot of paint here, like all the silver on the forearms and on the head, and there is a lot of paint on this thing, but the orange does look very plain. Now, the green is not painted either, and I wish that it was, because I think it really would have set this figure through the roof, but it's not. But it does have that glossy plastic, which kind of, it's a fake it till you make it kind of thing. It looks like paint, but it's not. This doesn't even have that, and the orange does look very cheap. I don't care for the way that looks at all, but it is effective, as we'll show. So these waist flaps come up, the hip skirts on both sides, exposing a universal joint that operates solely on friction. I would have preferred it to be ratcheted, but the friction joints are very good. So you get out to there, and just so you know, that's full Van Damme. And then forward and back, full Monty, and holds very well. They're well toleranced friction universals. I prefer they were ratcheted, but if they're going to do friction, they did it well. You get a thigh swivel also at the bottom of the universal. That's built in, so that works well. Single hinge knee that is ratcheted and gets you a great range. So even though it's single jointed, I don't think it's anything to complain about. I think it works like a champ. Moving down the figure, we have the feet. Now, we have a fair amount of articulation in these feet, not so much with Trailbreaker, but you have an ankle tilt up. Pardon me, we'll get to that. Ankle tilt up, ankle tilt down, rocker, no swivel, but you do get a toe hinge, and if you're having problem standing the figure, you can take this and put it down for extra support on the heel. I like all of that stuff. So that's this guy in a nutshell. I think that overall he's really effective. Like, it's funny because I don't think that Trailbreaker is that effective, and what's more interesting about it is I think that this might be their best piece that they've ever done. And I can't say that about Trailbreaker. Now, there are a legitimate amount of differences, which we will look at before we get to Transformation, but they redid the entire legs, and the backpack is different. And I don't know what it is about those two things, but it is different. I mean, not just different, but better. So real quick before we get out of here, the back is clean, both from the side and the back. So I think they did a good job. It's solid. Let's look at some size comparisons. And there Hoist is with his mold mate Trailbreaker. It is cool just to see the differences. And this one is far, far, far more effective than this one. And there he is with MP Grapple. You can't really do a Hoist video without doing this comparison. And of course, men lie, women lie, numbers don't. There is Masterpiece Trax coming in at 0.266 pounds. Masterpiece Ironhide, which is a little bit more in the same size comparison, at 0.47 pounds. And then X-Transbots offering, which is 0.60 pounds. So easily the heaviest. He does have good weight to him. There's die cast, and all the materials feel pretty solid, maybe with the exception of the orange pieces. So let's transform them. And we'll start with the arms. Now, these can be a bit of a pain to work around. There's a double hinge here that these flaps are on. I do wish that they were a little bit better sorted. But just open up this piece, and that comes around and plugs back into the other side of the forearm, which is why the gun works when it's folded up, like the missile works when it's folded up in there, or the blast, whatever it is, who cares. And then tuck the hand in. Make sure the fists with these terrible fingers are all curled up to the best of your ability. I did find the thumb. I know you guys were worried. Rest assured, I found the thumb. I don't want you to worry about it or lose sleep over it. And I certainly don't want Manny to worry about it. So tuck those hands in. It was actually underneath the chair that I'm sitting on. And then fold this back on the other side. The thumb came out when I got the hands out originally, and then I just couldn't find it. They're just terrible thumbs. I got to talking about those hands and lost track of what I was doing. So we're going to spin the arm around this way and then collapse it. Same for the other side. All right, so we got to get this backpack off, and it's kind of a pain to get in. This is a complaint I have with Trailbreaker as well. But if you see right there, that plugs into these gray pieces, and it's a tight fit. So hopefully it won't give you much trouble trying to get out, because it kind of wants to get out all the time. And then this piece just sort of comes into there to kind of hide everything, the rest of it. So you can go ahead and bring this up. It's on double hinges. While you're here, you can fold up these green pieces, and then you can open up these windows, and you can fold in these bits that just plugged into the side gray pieces back around, and they plug back into the orange piece. And this is all just preparation for things to come. You can get any of this ready that you want. You can fold this back down. This goes like this, and just kind of keep this like that for now. And then we got to get the head in, so to speak. So we're going to turn it to the side in order to get clearance. Wow, this is really terrible. Just so to speak, all this, okay? And then once we have it through, we get to here. Now, I like this guy. I need to talk about this. I should have talked about it while I was talking about the figure. I like this guy with his waist moved towards the back, but I think you're supposed to have it with his waist at the front, which if you like that look, that's cool. You can do that. That's what they suggest. I was just messing around with it. At any rate, you want to move it to the back at this point. And then you can unplug this front bumper from underneath and fold this up. And now you need to get this head into there with his eyes facing out the windshield, basically. So you got to kind of get it. It's a tight little bit of business here. because you got to get it through these pieces, and then you got to spin it afterwards, and then you have to tuck it up inside that open cavity, so to speak. We're just going to, so to speak, all that, right? Okay, so then, let's see here. I get disoriented, so we're going to turn the waist around as well. Just get that out of the way. And now we have to get the arms down. So pull these arms out to the side, and then we're going to pull this down. You can use your warning stripes here as a visual guide. And then we're going to tuck the arm back in. This piece here plugs into the side tire. Oh, I'm sorry. No, it's this piece plugs into the side tire piece there. And you want this extra little piece that had to flip around to sit on the top, because otherwise you won't have the clearance to get both in. So there that is. And then we're going to do the same thing on this side. Relatively painless, but I have done this a couple times. All right, so we got this up, and now we'll do the legs. Now, this is the more complicated part of it, so I know you're all like, oh no, here we go. There's just a number of things you have to do, and it's hard to keep track of it all. Fold this out. I guess my kids got home. Open this flap down, like we talked about for the heel spur. Rotate the tires down. They're on a hinge here. Just rotate them down. Take the knee and unlock this part here, bring it around, collapse it on itself, and tuck it back down. And then open this portion here. This will allow you to unpeg both of these parts and pull this whole assembly out, and then you want to get that pin all the way down. So you get to there, you come back down, fold the foot. That will allow you to close this to capture all that back up. And then on the back, what have I not got right here? I think, oh yeah, I did the wrong hip skirt? I guess it just sits like that. I thought for some reason, I thought that this plugged into something. Maybe I'm wrong. Oh well, we'll figure it out either way when we get to it, won't we? If it doesn't go together, then we know it's not right. So let's get it back out this way so we have a little bit more wiggle room. I don't know what I was thinking about there. Cut. Oh well. On here, we're going to open up this. Same thing. Well, actually, let's do this first. Open up this hip skirt. Get all the way. Close this. Open this, which will allow you to pull all that out. Open up the heel spur, move this pin all the way down to the bottom, drop this down, which will allow you to capture all that stuff. This comes around, and you have something that looks like this, and you can plug the legs together. So this is what you want. Not ultimately, of course. At this point, flip these up, straighten out these on both sides, and then collapse this middle bit. And the problem here is making sure that these side pieces stay up. And once they clear, you see the little indent there on the triangle, and then there's a corresponding tab as well, or a port. And then we'll do the same on this side. There. And then tab that in. So we're almost out of the woods, but not quite yet. So these green things have to fold around these orange hip skirts. And it is not impossible, but it just takes some dainty little fingers. And that is not what I was given. And make sure they fold around. And then this should clear these other orange posts. And all of this should collapse. there. And then this piece comes down and tabs into these two side ports here, which will probably end up, there we go. Not too much of a pain. And then this piece closes and these pieces come back around. And there he is. Now, you know, I usually do how they come in box. He does come in truck mode in box, but we'll be doing that with Trailbreaker. If I have two of the same mold, I like to take a look at both transformation steps so that they're both cataloged on my channel. So this is how it's done. So let's talk about it. Rolls like a champ. No problems there. The paint, once again, is really sloppy. I don't know what they're doing. It's even worse with Trailbreaker, but it's really, really bad, this caution warning stuff. It doesn't strike you as being so bad in robot mode, but in vehicle mode, it becomes very painfully obvious. We've already shown all the gimmicky stuff, so outside of that, there's a couple greens that don't match. That's not the biggest deal to me for whatever reason. Like, I like that little accent piece. Doesn't really bother me. Once again, I'm not entirely sure why, but they did a pretty good job. The paint being the only exception. So let's do some size comparisons. Of course, we have to do it with Tiger Tracks. So I think that's pretty on point. I will tell you that he'll fit into the trailer, but it is tight, and it's the lights there that get that muddied up. And there he is with his mold mate Trailbreaker. I showed them both in robot mode in Trailbreaker's video, so you'll just have to wait. But yeah, they look good together. So let's do some final thoughts. We can go ahead and get out of here. Let's talk about it. So the sculpt is good. That's never X-Transbots problems, or at least it's very rarely X-Transbots problems. The paint is problematic. The silver finish looks good, but any sort of detailing paint that they've tried to do looks a mess. And it's the same problem that Trailbreaker runs into. The articulation works pretty much across the board on this one, with the exception of the shoulders, which are obnoxious and a big hindrance. As far as the materials, the plastic feels pretty good and all the hardware feels good. I would have liked some ratchets in those hips, but aside from that, all that stuff works pretty well. It's definitely indicative of the character and it cleans up well. I like the alt mode and it's 90 bucks. I think that this figure in particular is probably X-Transbots' best figure to date. And that's not to say it's perfect. Some of the engineering is clunky. You know, some of it is not very enjoyable in order to do. But I must say they did a pretty bang up job with this guy. And you know, I don't cut them a whole lot of slack. And as you'll see in a couple days, I'm not going to cut them a whole lot of slack. But I think that, you know, a lot of these guys made Trailbreaker and then Hoist was the tag along. X-Transbots, I think, made Hoist and Trailbreaker was the tag along. And the fact that they redid the engineering on the legs shows a bit of dedication and a bit of passion and also a level of commitment to their fan base that I have to tip my hat to, even if it is X-Transbots, who I've had a rough, rocky relationship with in terms of my wallet in the past. So I definitely recommend this. I must say that I'm going to wait and see how it shakes out at this point to see what Fanstoys does and then this rumored Takara one. But I do recommend this and I think that you will be happy. Just know that the shoulder articulation kind of sucks. The paint is kind of shoddy in truck mode. And some of the engineering isn't as fun as you'd like it to be. Outside of that, I think it'll do its job just fine. And the price is pretty good. Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. Until next time, take care.